Today, we are looking at intelligence in the time of Trump. Not his intelligence or the people who elected him, but Canada's intelligence services. In a world where President Donald Trump has Canada in the crosshairs, intelligence isn't just helpful, it's vital. How Canada collects and uses intelligence, how deeply we depend on the Americans, and what we need to do to increase our independence are all up for discussion. Welcome to Intelligence in the Time of Trump. Our country, our world, is changing at an accelerating pace, faster and faster. It may feel disconnected, like hurtling through a maelstrom, but when you peel back the layers, unpack the pieces, you start to see the Canadian connections. Let's start with the basics. Canada has three main intelligence organizations. Canada's Security Intelligence Service, or CSIS, is counterterrorism, espionage, and foreign interference. Communications Security Establishment, CSE, they're the cyber brains, intercepting communications and defending against cyber threats. CFINTCOM, Canadian Forces Intelligence Command, is military focused, providing intel to help Canadian troops know what they're walking into. And then we have law enforcement, like the RCMP, which does some intel work as well, especially when it comes to national security investigations. Coordination between these agencies isn't always smooth. They're supposed to share information via integrated task forces, interagency meetings, and the Privy Council's office, which acts like the central nervous system. But reports from oversight bodies show there are cracks, poor coordination, weak accountability, and sometimes just straight up turf wars. It's like assembling IKEA furniture with three people holding different instructions in different languages. Now let's talk about the elephant in the war room, the United States. Canada is part of the Five Eyes Intelligence Sharing Alliance, alongside the US, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. It's an elite club, and we get a lot from it, especially from the Americans. We rely on the US for SINGIT. The NSA has global surveillance capabilities far beyond ours. HUMINT. The CIA has a global presence that CSIS simply doesn't. Geospatial Intel. Through agencies like the NGA, we get satellite imagery for military use. Cyber threat sharing from the US Cyber Command and NSA. And of course, NORAD, our joint aerospace defense, relies heavily on US systems. In short, the US brings the tech, the manpower, and the reach. Canada is strong on signals intelligence, but pretty weak on the other stuff. Depending on one country for critical national security intelligence is risky, especially when that country elects Donald Trump, who does not value traditional allies or conventional approaches to problems. Some of the problems with that dependence include policy divergence. U.S. interests don't always align with ours. Think China or climate change, or even election threats. Information cuts. In the times of tension, the tap can be turned off. And domestic blind spots. CSIS needs stronger independent collection tools to avoid leaning too hard on external partners. As the US moves farther and farther away from traditional allies in trade, strategic objectives, and levels of authoritarianism, we can't afford to be left blinking in the dark. So what would it take to make Canada more intelligence independent? Here's a wish list bigger than a NORAD radar dome. Legislative reforms. Number 1, expand CSIS's foreign intelligence mandate to allow proactive global operations. Enhance cybersecurity authorities for CSE to take more offensive and defensive actions. Strengthen oversight mechanisms like NSIRA and the Intelligence Commissioner for Democratic Accountability. Strategic investments. Increase funding for intelligence agencies to grow personnel, tech, and reach. Develop domestic surveillance capabilities like satellites and geospatial tools. Advance AI and big data analytics to reduce dependency on allied tech. And make organizational changes. Establish a central intelligence coordinator like a Canadian DNI to reduce silos. promote interagency collaboration with task forces and joint programs. On international strategy, diversify intelligence partnerships beyond the Five Eyes, and engage in global security initiatives to gain more access and credibility. And maybe fewer turf wars between CSIS and CSE, some shared coffee breaks. Just saying. Canada's intelligence services aren't perfect. Critics have raised serious concerns. CSIS has been scolded by the courts for withholding info and illegally keeping personal data. CSE has faced challenges with bureaucratic delays and collaboration failures. Cyber readiness. The Auditor General said we lack tools to properly fight cybercrime. And there are coordination gaps. Agencies don't always share well, even when lives are at stake. These aren't just growing pains, they're weaknesses in a more dangerous world. So what do we do? Keep riding shotgun with the US or build our own vehicle? The truth is, we probably need a bit of both. In the short term, we need to maintain Five Eyes and NORAD ties. In the longer term, we need to build resilience and capacity to operate independently if, or when, our big ally takes a coffee break from democracy. Because in intelligence, trust is everything. And as we've seen, trust can have a 4-year term. Canadians may be polite, but we're not naive. If we want to boost our intelligence independence, we will need investment, independence, and maybe our own satellites. Stay curious, stay engaged.